Okay, welcome to Kit's Rock Review, presented by the BarRoom Project. There's my little opening, and we still don't have a theme for it.
Dun, 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 dun. No,
So,
that wasn't good.
That wasn't good. Welcome to part 3 of the BarRoom Project show. And before we begin part 3 here, I would today's topic, by the way, is going to be, as we've said, musical supergroups. I don't know where I got this little meme, but you have Superman playing guitar, so that would be a good logo for musical supergroups. I will get into exactly what musical supergroup is in a few minutes, in a few seconds probably. But before we begin, I would just like to say, let's, Dickie Betts, thanks for the music. One of the founders of the Allman Brothers passed away this past week, Dickie Betts. He was responsible for writing their biggest hit song, Ramblin' Man. He also wrote all those Allman Brothers instrumentals, like In the Memory of Elizabeth Reed and Jessica. So, here's to you, Dickie. Now, don't forget, if you're on Facebook, like and follow Kit's Rock Review and the BarRoom Project. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe to Kit's Rock Review and the BarRoom Project. So, the definition of a musical supergroup is when two or more successful musical acts, form a completely new musical act. Wow, I cannot talk today. So right there, it says 1 + 1 is 2. There are also some groups that could have been supergroups had they changed their name when new members joined. First off, there's Eagles. When Joe Walsh joined, they could have been a supergroup, but instead they continued as the Eagles. They didn't change their name to the Hawks or the Falcons. They kept being the Eagles, so because they kept being the Eagles, they didn't change their name. Even though Joe Walsh changed their sound, they're not a musical supergroup. And the other one is Van Halen when Sammy Hagar joined. Because they continued as Van Halen and didn't change their name to Van Hagar, they are not a musical supergroup. Another example that I didn't put up here is the band Genesis. A lot of people call them a supergroup because Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, and Mike Rutherford all had like solo success, but they were banned first, and then their members had solo success. They didn't come together afterwards and form a new group. But anyway, so definition of a musical supergroup: when two or more successful musical acts form a completely new musical act. And this list I have is in alphabetical order. It is not a comprehensive list of musical supergroups. It's just what came to mind when I was writing this, and I put it in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with the letter A, and our first musical supergroup is Asia. Its original members consisted of Jeff Downes from the Buggles, Video Killed the Radio Star, Steve Howe from Yes, Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and John Wetton from King Crimson. They formed in the early 80s after Yes and ELP broke up. Steve Howe and John Wetton were invited by a record company executive to record some music. They got together, wrote some music, said, hey, this sounds pretty cool. Then they got Palmer and Downes to record that first Asia album, which was called Asia, in 1981. And we all know the biggest hit from that was Heat of the Moment. There was also Only Time Will Tell. In 83, they came out with a second album called Alpha, which had a song on it called Don't Cry. They are still going to Asia, still around today. However, only Downes and Palmer are still left in the band. Steve Howe rejoined Yes and is currently in one of the incarnations of Yes that's around. And John Wetton, unfortunately, passed away. But the current band, as I said, has Downes and Palmer. Plus, they have Yes bassist Billy Sherwood in the band. So they're still around. I'm not sure if they've recorded anything recently, but they are on tour. So that's Asia, our first musical supergroup. Our second musical supergroup is Audio Slave, which consists of Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and then 3 members of Rage Against the Machine. Basically, this band, in the early 2000s, Zach De La Rocha left Rage Against the Machine, and Rage Against the Machine was searching for a new lead singer. They considered Be Real of Cypress Hill. They even considered Lane Staley of Alice in Chains. But then music producer Rick Rubin, he's produced a lot of musical acts, he recommended Chris Cornell, because Soundgarden had broken up and Chris Cornell had been recording some solo stuff. Band got together, they did a little jam session, decided, hey, this sounds really good. But instead of him joining Rage Against the Machine, they decided to rename themselves as Audio Slave, because the music didn't quite sound like Chris Cornell or Soundgarden, it didn't quite sound like Rage Against the Machine. They produced 3 albums: Audio Slave. I can't read my own handwriting. The last one was called Revelation. The big song that when it first came out in the early 2000s, Like a Stone, I listen to that like on repeat on my CD player. But unfortunately, eventually, they had the personality conflicts, the musical differences thing, and Chris Cornell left Audioslave, and eventually Zach De La Roche rejoined, so Rage Against the Machine started up again. There were rumors of a reunion, but with Chris Cornell's death, nothing ever came of it. But I do believe they have a compilation album, and they have their 3 records that you can buy. So that is Audioslave. The next musical supergroup we're going to talk about is, Rory guessed it, the first one, Bad Company. It consists of Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke from Free. They had a big song called All Right Now. Mick Ralphs from Mott the Hoople, All the Young Dudes. And then Boz Burrell from King Crimson. It was initially formed after a bunch of those bands broke up, and Peter Grant, who was the manager of Led Zeppelin, got the guys together to form a new band. And for this lineup here lasted until 1982. You know a lot of their hits. There's a song Bad Company, Can't Get Enough, Feel Like Making Love. Oh, and I have a story about Feel Like Making Love. That song, Feel Like Making Love, I heard Susanna Hoffs of the Bengals play it. And she's like, this song used to embarrass me as a kid when she played it, when she overdone it. Anyway, Shooting Star, Rock and Roll Fantasy, and one of my favorite songs of all time, Silver, Blue, and Gold, is by Bad Company. They broke up in 82, as I said. They reformed in 86, but they didn't have Paul Rodgers in the band. They had Brian Howe in the band, and that lineup had a hit in 89 with Holy Water. The original lineup reunited in 1998, and they're currently touring still, but the only original members left are Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke. Go see them. At one point they even had Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes was filling in on the guitar. Bad Company. Our next musical supergroup is Blind Faith, which consisted of Ginger Baker and Eric Clapton from Cream, Steve Winwood from Traffic, and Rick Gretsch from a band called Family. I don't know much about Family. I didn't really look them up when I was doing my research. By the way, my research consists of listening to music. Anyway, so Cream had broken up in December 68. Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood were good friends. It was over Christmas. They got together just to play instruments. They really liked what they heard. Said we should form a band. Eventually, Ginger Baker was visiting. Said, "Hey, I'll be your drummer." And Clapton didn't really want Ginger Baker because he just broken up Cream. But when they started recording, Ginger Baker was there, and they got Rick Gretsch from Family. They only produced one album, which is called Blind Faith. And Presence of the Lord is one of the big hits on that. But they didn't last very long. They only lasted into the summer of '69 because there was this personality conflicts, and also Clapton and Winwood both had their own separate managers that wanted to manage the band, and it was all a mess, and it broke up. But more recently, Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood have gotten together and played a few gigs together. So the essence of Blind Faith is still around, I guess. So that's Blind Faith. Our next musical supergroup is a more modern musical supergroup called Chickenfoot, consisting of Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar from Van Halen, Joe Satriani, Cliffs of Dover guy, and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And this all started, Hagar, Anthony, and Smith were at Sammy Hagar's club in Mexico, just jamming. They said, this sounds good, but we need one more element, so they added Joe Satriani on guitar. They've released 2 albums so far. One is called Chickenfoot, and the other is called Chickenfoot 3. I don't know why it's Chickenfoot 3 if it's their second album, but who knows. That album came out in 2011. Unfortunately, because of commitments, Chad Smith could not tour with them in 2011, 2012, so they got Kenny Aronoff, who is the drummer for, was the drummer for John Cougar Mellencamp. But because of their busy schedules, they haven't done any recording since, and Chad Smith says it's probably not going to happen because they're all so busy. But pick it up. Chickenfoot sounds, like Sammy Hagar era Van Halen with Joe Satriani guitar solos. Okay, next up we have one of my favorite musical supergroups, if you didn't guess, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Sometimes Young. David Crosby was from the Byrds, Stephen Stills was from the Buffalo Springfield, Graham Nash was from the Hollies, and Neil Young was also from the Buffalo Springfield. This band started, the Buffalo Springfield had just broken up. Stephen Stills was bumming around LA. Crosby just got fired from the Byrds. They sort of got together and were, playing songs, writing songs together. There was a party at Cass Elliot, Mama Elliot, Cass Elliot from Mamas and the Papas. There was a party at her house. And Crosby and Stills started playing a song called You Don't Have to Cry. Graham Nash, he was on tour with the Hollies, and they just happened to be in LA. He ended up at the party, heard them play the song, You Don't Have to Cry. He asked them to sing it again. On the third time they started singing it, he joined in on high harmony vocals, and they all were amazed at that sound. They said, we got to record something. Nash ended up leaving the Hollies because of Crosby and Stills. They recorded that first Crosby, Stills, and Nash album. Then they wanted to go on tour, but they realized that they didn't want to be. They said we didn't want to be Simon and Garfunkel with just three of us playing acoustic guitars. So they invited Neil Young to fill in some of the missing instruments. Neil Young said, I'll join you, but I have to be a full-time member. I just can't be a touring member. So Crosby, Stills, and Nash became Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And the next year, they recorded the Deja Vu album. And they've been on and off again together up until like 2011, 2014, I think it was, when they finally disbanded. That first CSN album and Deja Vu are awesome. Even the CSN album from 1977. Their song Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, which is like, if I have to introduce anybody to CSN, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is the song I picked. That is CSN. 7 minutes of vocal harmonies. The Southern Cross, I remember that when I was in junior high. I love that song. Just a Song Before I Go, Neil Young's Ohio, and Crosby and Stills co-write with Paul Kantner, Wooden Ships. Pick up anything by CSN, anything before 1982 by CSN or CSNY, especially their live album 4-Way Street. It's an amazing band. I wish they were still together, but unfortunately because of Crosby's death, it's not going to happen. But I would still go see a Stills, Nash and Young show if it happened. So Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Next up we have Damn Yankees. Yeah, late 80s, early 90s band. Jack Blades from Night Ranger, Tommy Shaw from Styx, Ted Nugent from solo stuff, and the Amboy Dukes. And the drummer was actually Leonard Skinner for a while, I discovered. I think they just needed a drummer, so they grabbed him. Anyway, Shaw, Blades, and Nugent, in the late 80s, they found their solo careers were going down. So they said, if we get together, we can revive our careers. They did, called themselves Damn Yankees. Their biggest single was, of course, High Enough, with the Blade Shaw harmony vocals on it. And their original album was Damn Yankees. They also released another album called Don't Tread, but then they broke up. Ted Nugent says, you know what, we had a good run, but I don't want to overdo it. Shaw and Blades attempted to work as a duo. There was an album called Shaw Blades, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was like all covers. But it wasn't too successful, so eventually Shaw rejoined Styx, Blades rejoined Night Ranger, and I've heard rumors about them getting back together, but I don't think anything's ever come of it. But if you remember High Enough, that's pretty much what you got. Damn Yankees. I love those. I'm a sucker for harmony vocals, so when I hear High Enough with Blades and Shaw doing those harmony vocals, it's awesome. Okay, next up, the Highwaymen. Yeah. Willie Nelson, appropriate for 420. Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Chris Christopherson. And one article I read today when I was doing research called this a outlaw country supergroup, which I guess is appropriate for them. They actually got together. There was a Johnny Cash Christmas special in like 1982, and they were all part of the Johnny Cash Christmas special. They enjoyed playing together, so they decided to record an album. Their first album was called Highwaymen, but they weren't called the Highwaymen when it came out. They were actually called Nelson, Jennings, Cash, and Christopherson. And they got the nickname because the album was called The Highwaymen, and that was the single. It was actually a Jimmy Webb song that they had covered. And they came out with three records, but of course they had to disband because of the death of Jennings and Cash in the early 2000s. However, Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson in 2016, they found some archival vocals of Cash and Jennings, and they came out with a single. So if you can find that, go ahead and look it up. The Highwaymen. So this is my country supergroup here. Next up, we got Temple of the Dog. Going back to my college years here. Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, Matt Cameron from Soundgarden, Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam, Stone Gossard from Pearl Jam, Mike McCready from Pearl Jam, and Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. It's basically a mashup of Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. Chris Cornell, he had been roommates with a guy named Andrew Wood. Andrew Wood was the lead singer of a band called Mother Love Bone. And they just signed a deal with a major record label, and Andrew Wood died of a heroin overdose. when that happened, Chris Cornell was on tour with Soundgarden. He heard about it and he started writing songs about Andrew Wood. And he wrote all these songs and said, I got to record them, but I can't record them with Soundgarden because they're too personal. So he invited Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard to record the songs with him. He brought Matt Cameron from Soundgarden. They brought Mike McCready because they had just formed Pearl Jam. And then while they were recording, Eddie Vedder just happened to wander in the studio one day and he did some background and some co-lead vocals. So y'all know the big song from their release was called Hunger Strike. I'm going hungry. And the song I like from the album is called Say Hello to Heaven. They disbanded after they didn't play much. They disbanded. A couple times Chris Cornell showed up at Pearl Jam shows and they had a mini reunion. But obviously now it cannot happen because Chris Cornell is no longer with us. And actually Matt Cameron eventually joined Pearl Jam. So I guess if you go see Pearl Jam, you're also seeing a Temple of the Dog reunion kind of. So Temple of the Dog, early 90s alternative band. And this is the last band we got here that I'm going to talk about. The Traveling Wilburys, one of the biggest supergroups around. George Harrison of the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne from the Electric Light Orchestra, Tom Petty from the Heartbreakers, and Roy Orbison was the original lineup. The band began because George Harrison there, during his Cloud 9 era songs, he needed a B-side, because in Germany, when you release a single, the B-side has to be a different song. So he got the song Handle with Care. Jeff Lynne was there. And they said, Roy Orbison's here. Bob Dylan's here. Oh, and we left our guitars at Tom Petty's place. So they all joined in recording the single. After they recorded Handle with Care, they realized it was too good to just be the B-side of a George Harrison single. So then they got together, and over the next 2 weeks, they jammed, and they came up with songs for the first Traveling Wilburys album. In addition to Handle with Care, there's Tweeter and the Monkey Man, there's End of the Line, there's Congratulations, there's Dirty World. I love that Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. For a while, it was out of print, and you couldn't get it. My friend and I scoured used record stores to find Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. Of course, during the touring, not really touring, but during the promotion cycle, Roy Orbison died. But then the Traveling Wilburys came back a few years later with Traveling Wilburys Volume 3, which was kind of confusing because it was their second album. But I still love the Traveling Wilburys, especially that first album. If you can find it on a streaming service, if you can find it, physical copy, get it. It's an amazing album. So that ends my supergroups. What do you think? In the comments for this video, let us know what you think. Do you know of any other musical supergroups? I know of another one that I didn't put in here. I'm wearing their t-shirt right here, the Tedeschi Trucks Band. Derek Trucks was in the Allman Brothers. Woo! Susan Tedeschi was a blues solo singer. What about other musical supergroups? What other subjects do you want me to do on Kids Rock Review? Let me know. This I was actually going to do the last time, but I got their last show, but I actually got really sick. I didn't want to make the band sick, so I didn't do it.
The band thanks you.
Yeah, the band thanks me. On the next BarRoom Project show, I'm going to do the lineup for, if I had $1 billion and could have a Kids Rock Review music festival, I'm going to do the lineup of who I would have.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the band in a few seconds. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Seconds.
Woo!
All right, great Kids Rock Review.
I learned a lot at this one. I really did.
All right, we got a few more songs. We're going to end this night out on this 420 show. I want to thank everybody for joining us.
You want to thanks everybody?
So,
Yep, we're all right.
we're doing good. We're doing good. What did I say? Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sis.
Thanks, sis.
Thanks, sis.
It's all good.
Wow, you guys are mean.
Yeah, we are.
I'm sorry, I have a terrible sense of humor. It's the worst.
I kind of like it.
I have a terrible sense of humor.
It's perfect the way it is. Don't change, Rory.
Terrible. Sometimes it just doesn't hit. You said what? You know? Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. Jesus.
People are just too sensitive.
I think we all take ourselves entirely too seriously.
Oh, yes. Somehow this mic stand is
All right, another 420, a good 420 movie to watch on 420. What would that? Super Troopers was on. Big Lebowski.
Oh, the Big Lebowski.
I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
Half Baked. You know which one I really like too is Without a Paddle. Remember that?
A stoner movie? Is it?
No, there's pot in it. I don't know. It's kind of a fun movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have
we
one.
got a one swear word.
All right, we're gonna do a song here that Chris wrote. Mute the words for. Just drop a pick. It's called Broken. Saying it'll be alright, 'cause that's all I've got. Optimism's easy when utilities beyond good enough. Working in our way, gradual day by day. Broken, you and I, together we can fly away. Feel the rush of constant motion. It's hard enough to breathe. I'm no different from what I see between you and me. That's rocking in our way, gradual day by day. Broken, you and I, together we can fly Two, three, four. All right, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Who are we seeing?
I don't know. Whoever's watching. Whoever's going to be watching. All right, gonna switch it up. We got 2 more to do for tonight's 420 show.
Woohoo! Flying V looks nice tonight.
Yeah. Maybe we'll end with this one. We'll see how it goes.
Whatever makes you happy.
Whatever makes you happy, sir.
Not used to using the distortion, you know.
Oh, pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting.
I was watching Metal Mayhem the other night and I saw lots of flying V's. Or flyings V. How the heck do you pluralize that?
I don't know.
Final word.
What do y'all think? Let's do one more. Or we call it a night. All right. Hey,
We all done playing.
no free bird. Want to thank everyone for joining us for our 420 show on 4/20/2024. Wow, a lot of 20s in there. And a lot of 4s. Christine, Bamboo Lounge, great drink tonight. Kit, awesome segment. Super groups.
Learned a lot.
All right. So this Friday, April the 26th, we're going to be at Renaissance Pub. 7 o'clock, join us there. And May 10th, we're going to be at the American Legion here in Little Falls. Hey, happy 420, everyone. Take care. God bless everyone. Peace out.
Little Falls famous.